Hey, this is Sam from the BYU Software Training Lab, and in this video, we're going to talk about Procreate animation. You can animate drawings, text, painting, and more in Procreate. Pretty much anything you can make in Procreate, you can also animate. To animate in Procreate, you go up to the wrench icon at the top left, then to the Canvas section, and click on Animation Assist. This changes how Procreate works a little bit. Now, instead of each layer being a normal layer, each layer is a frame. If you want to have multiple layers in a single image, you can make a group, and that group becomes a frame. At the bottom, we have a timeline. This lets you go through every frame of your animation. Tapping on the frames gives us a few options. The first frame can be set as background, and the last frame can be set as foreground. You can duplicate or delete frames from here, or set a hold duration for how many frames you want this image to show for. I'll add a few frames and draw a couple things, just so we can see how this animation works. If you try to draw on a frame that's a group, a little menu will pop up so you can choose which layer you want to draw on. To play your animation, you press play at the left of the timeline, and pause stops it. On the right-hand side, we have the Settings and Add Frames buttons. Add Frames obviously adds frames, but you can also do this by making a new layer in the Layers panel at the top. The Animation Settings menu lets you change all sorts of things. First, there are 3 play settings: Loop, Ping Pong, and One Shot. Loop will loop your animation forever. Ping Pong will go forward and then backward through them forever. And One Shot just goes through it once. Frames per second adjust speed. And onion skin is the other frames you can see before and after your current frame. This is super helpful when animating movement. You can see where you're going and what you've already drawn. The onion skin frames slider is how many frames before and after you can see, and the opacity is the opacity of those frames. Blend primary frame will lower the opacity of the current or selected frame so that it becomes more a part of the onion skin process instead of the only opaque frame. That one's more useful in complicated animations. At the bottom, you can change the colors of the onion skins. Often, people will have the past frames, the ones that have already happened, be red, and the future or approaching frames be green. The default is no specific color. To export your animation, you go up to the wrench at the top and to the Share tab, just like for any other project. However, for animations, you use the bottom section called Share Layers. PDF and PNG files will share all of your layers as separate images, which can be helpful, but for an animation, we need to choose one of the last 4, called Animated. I won't go over all of these, but PNG is the best for having a transparent background. If you click on one, it will give you a bunch of other options. Web Ready is lower quality but lower file size. Transparent background obviously makes the background see-through, and you can change the speed again from the frames per second. Different file types will have different options. Dithering will try to reduce distortion, but you shouldn't need that unless you're working on a pretty complicated animation. Per frame color palette changes the color palette for every frame. Again, I don't really use these unless it's really complicated. Once you do that, you can save it wherever you want. And that's animation in Procreate. In the next video, we'll be talking about Page Assist in Procreate.